Do you have a digital camera? If so, you probably have a kit lens. That's the lens that came with your digital camera when you first purchased it. Your kit lens is all you need to start taking absolutely stunning images with your new camera right away. In this video, I'll show you how you can make the most of your kit lens so you can take amazing photos and save some money before upgrading to a more expensive lens. One of the key benefits to your kit lens is that you can zoom in and out. How far you've zoomed in is measured in focal length. Focal length is a technical term that can be roughly explained as the distance between your lens and your camera's sensor. But if you don't want to be bogged down by the technicalities, just know that the higher the zoom number, the more ability you have to zoom into your subject. You can see your lens's focal lengths displayed on the lens itself. This kit lens has a focal length range from 18 to 55 millimeters. Okay, let's hit the streets so we can get some really cool shots with this kit lens. I'm here in Mexico at the famous Guanajuato City Lookout, ready to shoot this colorful cityscape scene. And my lens will work perfectly fine. Because it's a landscape shot, we want to include as much of the scenery as possible. That's why we'll switch the lowest focal length number of the kit lens, which in my case is 18 millimeter. Because it is a landscape, we want the scene to have as much focus sharpness as possible. That's why I'll get you to go to Aperture Priority Mode and select an aperture number of f11. The aperture number determines how much background blur your photo has behind the subject usually. The higher the aperture number, like f11 in our case, the less blur there'll be, and that's perfect in this scenario because we want the entire shot to be sharply focused. But we don't want to select too high an f-stop number either because kit lenses tend to lose quality with higher apertures such as f16 and f22. So f11 is typically a good sweet spot aperture number for great landscape shots with lenses like this. Now it's time to set the focus. In this case, I want to focus on the middle of the scene. So I'm going to use single shot autofocus for this landscape. Some camera companies call it single shot, some cameras like this Canon, one shot. So I'm just going to go into one shot autofocus, and what that does, and it's usually by default on one shot, it simply is a way to photograph things that are not moving. So for example, nothing's moving in the scene, so one shot or single shot's perfect. Okay, let's take the shot. 18 millimeter, good wide view. Because we're at f11, everything in the foreground all the way to the distant horizon that's miles away is going to be sharply focused. The kit lens did an excellent job. But that's not all. You can also use a kit lens to take better portraits. The first thing you need to do is rotate your lens's zoom ring all the way, which will give you maximum zoom. This will allow you to fill the entire frame with your subject while avoiding unflattering distortions on your subject's face. Let me show you what I mean. I want to photograph my friend here. Let's see what happens when I use the minimum focal length of 18 millimeters and the maximum focal length of 55 millimeters. Okay, so my first photo as a test will be at 18, which is very wide. Let's see what happens. Okay, now I'm going to take the shot at 55 millimeters. Let's see what happens. Okay, so let's take a look at these two shots back to back. Okay, if we look at both images side by side, at 18 millimeter focal length, the features of her face just don't look appealing. 55 millimeters is a much better choice though, and your subject will thank you for making them look so much better. Also at 55 millimeters, there's far less surrounding visual clutter, which allows your subject to really stand out. But we can make this portrait even better. We'll add some beautiful background blur to the picture to give it that pro magazine look, and we'll also photograph her from the best possible angle. We still have the lens set at the maximum zoom. Okay, for aperture priority, just go to A or AV, depending on your camera, and we're going to select our lowest aperture f-stop number possible. Now, for this lens, it is f5.6 when I'm at my 55 millimeter focal length. So I'm going to dial down to f5.6, and what this will do is give me more background blur than my previous test shot. If you remember, the aperture number determines how much background blur there is. That's why we want to select the lowest aperture number possible for more background blur. For this Canon kit zoom lens, it will be f5.6. For a greater background blur effect, I position my model a fair distance away from any background. I'll also photograph her from a lower angle for more empowered look, sometimes called a hero shot. Okay, let's take the photo. Okay, there we go. So as you can see, we have even more background blur than last time. We have a lower f-stop number, it looks great. Also, by me lowering my camera just a little bit, I actually visually empower my subject. Now, you don't always have to shoot lower than your subject, sometimes the opposite is beneficial. However, keep that in mind, if you are lower than the person, then they are usually grander and more important visually in portraiture like this. Finally, your kit lens does have some limitations. It's best to know these limitations so that you can work your way around them. Kit lenses are generally cheaper, so they will suffer from different types of what we call distortion, especially at lower focal lengths. For example, if you are photographing architecture at a wide angle, you might notice that straight lines in real life look rounded in the photo, especially towards the sides of the picture. That's not good. You can actually fix this by using editing software such as Lightroom CC. However, if you know you'll be taking a lot of wide-angle shots, it might be smart to invest in an inexpensive wide-angle prime lens. The name prime lens simply means a lens that does not zoom. It has a fixed, or we can say non-changing, focal length. Also, kit lenses can't give you the lowest aperture numbers for maximum background blur in your portraiture. While you can take most shots perfectly fine with a kit lens, especially one that has the lowest aperture f-stop number of 5.6 like this, a prime lens, for example, with an aperture f-stop number of f2.8 at higher focal lengths such as 85 millimeters or 135 millimeters, will serve you best for very high quality portraiture. And finally, if you want to zoom in even further than your kit lens is able, you should go for a telephoto lens. That's a lens with a focal length longer than your standard 18 to 55 millimeters, such as this 55 to 250 millimeter telephoto zoom lens. Although it could be exciting to have the ability to zoom in all the way, these lenses are typically a bit more expensive than the price of your normal kit lens if you were to purchase your kit lens separately. Remember, you don't have to go out and get an expensive lens to be a great photographer. Your lens and your camera are tools. If you know how to use them, you'll get outstanding results. If not, even the best lens won't make your photos live up to your expectations. Now, there's so much more I'd like to tell you about digital photography besides how to use your kit lens. And while I didn't hold anything back, there's only so much I could share with you in a short video like this. And that is why I've recorded an entire video course about taking incredible photos with your digital camera. This course will also help you get off of the auto mode and take the kinds of photos you've been dreaming about since you bought your expensive digital camera. So if you'd like to find out more about my digital photography course, you'll find more information right under this video. Take a look at my full photography course, and I hope to see you there.